In this No Man's Sky video, I've got the location of some white frigates with some lovely black highlights. So once you've been to a few bases and got yourself some units, like my stasis device farm, and if you need that location, you'll find it in the description below. You can start farming the frigates for lots of A classes and S classes. But here's the postal address with the convenient pause for the frigates. This was originally found by Jensen, thank you Jensen. But as soon as you land the planet, you head to the space station. And as you can see, it's a Kovacs pirate system, which means the spawn rate for S and A classes is going to be quite high. But let's go into space and head towards the space station. For me, when I stopped pulsing, they started to spawn in as soon as I got to the space station. They might warp in earlier for you, but it's a good time to go and inspect them. And when you get close enough, you'll get that little green icon. Answer the incoming message and inspect the frigate. This B-class trade specialist has got a red negative, so it's a reject. But it does look awfully nice. Let's go on to the next one. Make sure you get close enough to the frigate you want to inspect, so the incoming call comes from that frigate. And this C-class explorer has got a negative on combat, so this is another reject. But there's another trade specialist, so let's go and inspect that. It's a C-class with no negatives. It's got a decent spread of stats, so let's pick it up, it's cheap enough. After all, when you've sent them out in a few missions, the C-classes will upgrade to S's eventually. But there's an industrial one, so let's go and inspect that. It's another C-class, and it's quite cheap, so let's pick it up. And this is why you should get quite close to the frigates, because the one I saw previously is just giving me another call. Ironically, the harder thing about getting frigates is making sure you inspect them all, but there's another couple over there, so let's go and see them. There's a B-class explorer, let's pick that up. The final one over there is also an explorer, so let's go and inspect that. It's a C-class with no negatives, let's pick it up. Then let's head to the space station, get in and out of a ship and do a reload. And remember to do a reload from the restore point save. And this is when the farming starts. I personally only spent an hour doing this. You can spend a little bit more time if you wish. For the support class, you only need about 2 of them. For industrial, combat, trade and expedition, it depends on how many S's and A's you get. But it's worth getting at least 1 or 2 S classes of each of those classes, as that will reduce the amount of frigates that you have to send out on missions. That little purple square, that's where your freighter and your frigates are. But if you can get at least 2 S classes in combat and exploration, it will give you the ability to send more frigates out on missions, as freighters turns out to be one of the better farms in the game. And as you can see, after the reload, the S classes started to come in, so there's an industrial S class, let's get that. We've got another Seagas combat ship. If you've got the units, it's worth picking them up and then rejecting them later on, especially when it comes to combat, because you're going to need quite a few of them. For example, you'll need about 8 of them if they're all C classes, but you only need about 3 or 4 of them if they're S's. And it's also worth double checking the stats. Like this one here, it's got a nice spread of stats, 22 in combat, and a nice even spread through the other stats, as those numbers determine if you're going to have successful missions when you send them out. Like this industrial hauler, 23 in industrial, and a nice even spread in the other stats. Of course, we've got the support vessel. The stats on this are actually quite rubbish. I'm going to pick it up because they can be a bit rare, and if I find a better support vessel, I'm going to reject this one. You can do this in your freighter control room where it says manage fleet. This is another exploration one. The stats aren't that great, so I'm going to reject this. At this point, I know I've got 2 of each kind, so I can start being a bit picky. Here's another exploration one, but it's got red and trade, so nope, I'm going to reject that. Now it's back to the space station to get in and out of my ship, so I can do the reload. As usual, leave the space station, pulse for a little bit, more freighters will come in and you'll have some already in the system. Like I said earlier, I only farm for an hour, you can farm for a lot longer. But in that hour, I got this other S-class support vessel. This S-class explorer. And this A-class combat vessel. So it depends on how many units you got and how much time you want to spend reloading to get as many S's and A classes as you can. But do remember, getting C classes, when you upgrade them, you can get better stats. So getting at least 1, possibly 2 S classes for each class, and the rest all being C's and B's, might be a better way to go about it. Because when you go to your freighter and go to the mission specialist, and you send them out on missions, like I'm doing here, if you don't have at least 1 S class sending them out missions, you're going to have to send out more frigates to make sure your fleet rating is higher than the difficulty rating, which is going to cost you more fuel, and if you've got 1 S class, it will increase the chance of those missions being successful. When it comes to balanced explorations, that's when you need to find frigates that have got balanced stats across the board. And these are the frigates I got from 1 hour of farming. If you put a little bit more time in, you can get at least 1 S class for each type. But if you can get an extra A or S class for combat and exploration, it will give you the option to send out 5 missions a day, as more commonly than not, you usually get 2 combat and 2 exploration missions a day. And when you inspect the frigates, you've got the ability to dismiss them or teleport aboard. And sometimes it's worth teleporting aboard because they give you free stuff. And of all the frigates, the trade ones are my favourites. I just love the design of them. And I know they've added a new feature where you can go and assist them, but I really wish we could actually fly them ourselves. I hope you liked the video, and if you did, hit that like and subscribe button, or on the bell thingy. And of course, thank you for watching. See you all later.